Could I ask the Chief Minister what support is planned to mitigate the impact of holiday hunger during the school Christmas holidays?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for her question. No child should go hungry on our island at any time of year. Social Security provides benefits to low-income families all year round in order that they have sufficient funds to feed their family, and I would strongly urge any concerned families to contact Social Security as soon as possible to ensure that they are receiving the benefits of which they are entitled. However, Mr. Speaker, I must acknowledge that there are potentially extenuating circumstances this Christmas, such as the rise in fuel costs and the rate of inflation, which are impacting on the cost of living. I've been in discussions with the Treasury Minister to consider current economic conditions, and as a consequence have asked him to consider what further support should be considered for those in receipt of free school meals over the Christmas holidays. Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm encouraged to hear the Chief Minister's words this morning, but I would ask him, I would concur that there are special circumstances this year with many people, any reserves having been used up during the COVID pandemic, in particular, pressure of the increase in heating costs as well. And the Chief Minister wants to ensure no child goes hungry and urges them to contact social services. Is he aware that 70% of the referrals to the food bank in fact come from government departments, principally Social Security, when they have nothing further to assist families in situations facing decisions over heating or eating, and that the food bank is currently expecting a spike, but already sees routinely 120 to 140 households that they're assisting. So while a review is welcome, when will the outcome of that review be known? Because although there are positive signs from the Chief Minister in his island plan and the Poverty Committee being reconvened, it's just so much talking on paper and words on helping people. So when can people anticipate that they would be aware what support is going to be needed, and for this year in time for Christmas? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There is no review, Mr. Speaker. I quite clearly said in my answer, I've asked the Treasury Minister to consider what further support should be considered for those in receipt of free school meals over the Christmas holidays. I trust the Treasury Minister will be considering that as a matter of importance. I would fully expect him to be able to make any relevant announcements in the next few days.
Thomas? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the Cold Hunger and Homelessness Action Plan was put in place, the Department of Education, Sport and Culture was considering uniforms, but wasn't formally considering holiday clubs, which might well be the preferred solution in most places, might well be the ideal solution here. Can the Chief Minister advise whether or not holiday clubs at Christmas and at the end of August are still being considered by Council Ministers? And more generally, as COVID started in March 2020, the work of the Social Policy and Children's Committee on holiday hunger was ceased. Has that work ever recommenced, and has the report been produced by the Cabinet Office-led group of officials and charities about how to deal with holiday hunger, and so can the Chief Minister commit to circulate that report?
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. As honourable members will know, we are in the very heart of putting together our island plan, which this government will make a number of commitments in terms of what it's setting out to achieve. I'm sure that the aspects that the honourable member has referred to will be revisited and refreshed, and we will obviously consider that and outline our plans in terms of dealing with the social issues on our island and what we plan to do to improve the lives of our residents.
Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the Chief Minister, myself, and I know the Treasury Minister and a lot of other members have actually taken the time to go and visit the food bank to speak to the excellent work that was taken by this charity. But does the Chief Minister have any understanding of the themes as to why people are having to access this? Because I know from my visit, a lot of this came down to the fact that they could not access, or there was significant delays in accessing key benefits. So what reassurance can the Chief Minister give to people who need benefits can access them quickly, even if that means emergency payments in the meantime with them, their assessments being undertaken? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So, Mr. Speaker, I'm keen as anybody that Social Security acts as quickly as possible when they're put in contact with families who are in need. Our commitment is to respond within the framework that is provided within the law, but as the Honourable Member knows, there is the ability to issue emergency payments, and I very much hope that officers will be cognizant and aware of that, and in the appropriate circumstances, Mr. Speaker, I am sure that the relevant officers will issue the appropriate payments on an emergency basis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Chief Minister says that Social Security operate within the existing framework. Does he feel that it's the framework that needs to be changed, to be reviewed, to enable us not to get to a situation where we need to consider holiday hunger, both at summer holidays and Christmas holidays, and that the level of benefits, actually the benefits, a whole-scale review of benefits is possibly what's needed here, so that people have enough to live on and to feed their families? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think I've already made some of those commitments in my Chief Minister's manifesto, and I expect that to be reflected in the island plan. But I must emphasise, Mr. Speaker, that the response to the Honourable Member's question really is something that we were considering in terms of the whole impact on the economy of the current economic situation, and also there are extenuating circumstances. We know, for example, that gas prices have risen by 27.5%. We know that inflation is almost at 5% or has been at 5% certainly, and is close to that mark at present. And we know that we've already made commitments around Social Security and winter bonus payments and the increase that we've made there to protect the most vulnerable. I think so far our response to a perfect storm of economic conditions, which has been further made problematic, of course, by current COVID response levels and the requirements that are being put there, which of course may impact on those particularly in the hospitality industry and those on 0 hours. Will be making life difficult for a number of our families. We're very cognizant and conscious of that fact, and that's why I have had those discussions with the Treasury Minister. I know that colleagues on the Economic Recovery Group are also clearly concerned about this issue, and I expect that the Treasury Minister will be responding appropriately in the next few days.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the announcement today by the Chief Minister that he believes there's a review of Social Security benefits going on. So could the Chief Minister circulate further information about that review? Because I put that question straight to officers in the last week, and I was told that national insurance was being reviewed, but Social Security benefits weren't actually being reviewed. So it would be good to know further information of that review. The second question is that does the Chief Minister agree with me that it's important to welcome the work that the departmental member and the Minister in Treasury responsible for Social Security seem to be doing to reflect on the nature and the payment of emergency payments and also loans, because I think it's very important 7 years on that we review the anti-fraud measures that were reduced around 2014-15 to make sure they're not harming decent people as they try to put a house around them and feed themselves properly so they can hold down a proper job and have a good life.
I didn't actually say there was a review going on. I said that those commitments would be made in the island plan as appropriate. I said they have been mentioned in my Chief Minister manifesto, and I'm sure that appropriate commitments would be reflected in our island plan. But as the Honourable Member knows that there is a review of national insurance that is ongoing. And in terms of the second part of his question, I welcome all elements of enhanced work that is going on to ensure that our commitments to ensuring that the island reflects across society as being fair and equal, and in terms of looking after those who need a helping hand, and I continue to support that sort of work.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do welcome the comments from the Chief Minister this morning, but the final point for me would be to inquire whether the Chief Minister has visited the food bank and whether he has asked any of his officers to engage with them, and given the special extenuating circumstances that the Chief Minister referenced in the higher cost of living and inflation, would it be possible for the government to consider directly supporting the food bank given the increased demand on their service in the coming months? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'm constantly engaging with charities across the island in a variety of scenarios. I think the predominant question is whether we would provide financial support to the food banks. We have an existing framework. It's appropriate that our public funds are managed correctly, particularly when it comes to either revenue or national insurance-based payments. That is why we have a controlled statutory framework for social security to operate on, and I am confident, Mr. Speaker, that the government is reacting appropriately to a number of extenuating circumstances at the moment, including the increased support that is going forward now for winter bonus payments, which will help the most vulnerable with their increased gas and fuel bills, and also now that we have committed this morning in answer to the Honourable Member's question that the Treasury Minister is currently considering what further support may be now needed and offered to those families whose children particularly are on free school fees.
Question 5, Honourable Member, Mr.